We're going to be talking about shooting a gun while using a handheld light. Now, this is something that people make seem simple. And when they make it seem simple, that implies it's easy, but it certainly isn't easy. And I have found there's a lot of nuances that will increase your performance that make it so it's not simple. Now, the first thing people will say is, I don't need to be good at this because I have this. So they'll think because they have a weapon mounted light, they don't need to be good with their handheld light. Okay, a couple reasons why that is incorrect. First off, there's a lot of situations where it's inappropriate to use this light, but it is totally fine to use this light. As in, if you shouldn't be pointing a gun at anyone, then you shouldn't be using your weapon mounted light. Okay, so outside of the fighting part, you can have a handheld light in your hand for pretty much any reason at any time. Yeah, certainly there's times where even that could be inappropriate and you can escalate situations with this. But, for instance, you don't want to be looking for your dog in the park with this. You don't want to be trying to signal your friend, hey, I'm over here. There's a lot of times where you should not be using your weapon mount light because it's crazy. Also, you might get handed a gun, as in you don't have your Gucci setup or you lost your setup. And now you have to make it work with this and this. And something to think about is who said you would get to use the gear you chose in your gunfight? Like, can you tell the future? Because I can't, so that's why I want to be good at using this with any gun I pick up. Other thing, weapon mounted lights stop working. They break, they fall off, they run out of battery, all of which is a time where you'd want to be good with your handheld light. So I've learned a bunch of things in a bunch of classes I've taken, and I'm going to kind of give those things to you, some things to try out, some things to think about that should make shooting with a handheld light a lot easier. First thing I would tell you to do is buy a flashlight shock cord adapter. Now, this is a product I make. Yes, I want to make money off of it, but you could also buy another similar product from another company that does basically the same thing, or you can make it yourself. But let's talk about why. When it comes to running a handheld light and a gun, there are times that we need to free up this hand to keep the gun working, open doors, grab stuff, whatever. There's times where we need to free up this hand, okay? So when we have to do that, there's different things that are taught. Number one, you could just take this light, put it in your pocket, fix your gun, get the light back out, and then continue fighting. However, we can see that's going to add 2 steps to what we have to do, and it's going to make it slower and harder. Another thing people will say is that you could trap it underneath your arm and then fix your gun. One problem with that is that when you are actually under stress, if you haven't really practiced this, you're gonna drop your light, okay? I would advise you just to abandon that technique altogether. Another way people do it is they'll use a cigar technique. So that makes it so that you have these 2 fingers, the trigger finger and of your other trigger finger and your middle finger holding the light, and then you can use these other fingers to fix the gun. I have found, yes, it does work, but it's not as easy. It's harder, okay? Now, you still have to figure out how to do it without the shock cord adapter, because again, who said you would get to have your Gucci setup in your gunfight? So you might just find a handheld light. So still get reps trying this stuff out. However, all that shit makes it harder, okay? So what I like is I just throw my 2 fingers, my trigger finger and my middle finger, through that hole, and then I can operate the light with my thumb. And that makes it so that the light is dummy corded to my hand, and I don't have to think about what do I do with the light in that moment. Now, the other thing with this too is that if I have the light in this hand like this, I could, you know, just be using my light because it's not appropriate to have my gun out yet. And then, oh no, I need my gun out. Then when I draw my gun, I go to my weapon mount light. Okay. And then when I'm working that light, I can just use my thumb to press the buttons and the light stays dummy corded to my hand. There's no step involved as far as what do I do with this light when I switch to the weapon mount light. Now, this technique I stole from listening to Kyle Lamb of Viking Tactics. I haven't gotten to train with him yet, but watched a lot of his content. And then one instructor I did train with, he had trained with him, and he got it from him. So there's a lineage of that technique right there. But I find that this is the simplest technique. It basically allows me to use all the one-handed, quote unquote, handheld light techniques, as in it's one-handed shooting because you only have one hand really on the gun, and then the other hand is working the light. And that's where I really like it. Now, I first developed this product watching Jaeger use his technique where he just wraps the shot cord around his hand like that. And that does work. I just find it doesn't work nearly as well. So I just keep it like this, and then I put it in my hand like that. Now, that works. It also makes the cigar technique better because now I've got the light dummy corded to my hand so I can still reload and whatnot. It's just like I have to hang on to it a little bit. So if you're using the cigar technique already, this can be good. You could even wrap this shot cord tighter to make it a smaller hole. The way I've got it is I just double wrap the shot cord around the light, and then I tighten the cord toggle to give me that 2-finger loop that I prefer. Next, we're going to be talking about handheld techniques while shooting a pistol. Now, one thing that you'll hear people say is that using a neck index or a temple index will get you shot in the head because that light is next to your head. So they're going to shoot at the light and they'll shoot you in the head. All right, I understand the logic there, but also you will hear those same guys then talk about all the other techniques I'm going to talk about in a positive sense, and they'll talk about weapon mount lights in a positive sense. So think about this real quick. Is this light going to get me shot in the head? Because it's in line with my head right now. Is this light going to get me shot in the head? Well, if this is going to get me shot in the head, then so will those. Now, if I go like this or like this, will those also get me shot in the head? So I don't find it logical, because if that's going to get me shot in the head, then I should take off all my weapon mounted lights, and the only technique I should ever use is the FBI technique or the modified FBI, okay? And that's just not very practical. So again, there's a good and bad to everything. That's why I'm kind of agnostic to the different techniques and the different tactics you can use for a low light. But I want to address that issue because I already see that comment coming. Now, let's talk about it real quick. So neck index is a very popular one because it just puts the light in line with the gun. So it's like whatever I'm pointing my gun at, I am pointing my light at. One thing to consider though is that you might find it beneficial to use a temple index instead, and specifically think about the use of iron sights. If I have my light down here, when I turn it on, it's gonna light up my back plate on my gun and my hand a lot, and my front sight is dark, okay? It also casts a shadow off of my arm that way. So a temple index, I find, is a lot better because it illuminates my front sight. Yeah, it illuminates the back of my hand and the back plate and the rear sight as well, but it allows me to see my front sight more clear and to see the target. So basically, if you think about the line from the sights to your eye, I want that light higher so that I can see my front sight and the target. And guys will say, well, you just illuminate the target, then you see the silhouette of your sights. Yeah, that makes sense, but practically speaking, if you've done a lot of low light shooting, you've probably found that seeing your front sight makes it a lot easier. This is also where your tritium is going to stop working because there's too much light going on for you to actually see it. Like, think about, there's different lighting conditions from where you are to in between you and the target to behind the target. And so all that plays different variables in how well you see your sights, if your tritium's working, and other weird stuff. So you got the neck index. Again, I prefer temple index. Then you got the Harry's technique is one that often is talked about immediately after that. Now for Harry's, I've heard a lot of people say they don't like it because it's a weaver stance, and what they're trying to do is put the back of the hand to the back of the hand, and then they're locked out and they have to blade their body. That only happens if you let it happen, okay? So my students who have taken pistol cheat codes know that I'm an advocate for bent elbows while shooting. Reasons for this: number one, it puts less recoil of the gun into your body because this is a shock absorber and this is a piston. So this actually locking out will put more recoil back into your body and make the shooting a little bit harder. And that's where people really believe in stance, is because they're static shooters who are locked out. And so they need a really good stance in order to absorb all that recoil they're putting back in their body. Other thing, try walking briskly with a cup of water in your hand with your arm locked out. What you'll find is that when you're locked out, you are on 2 dimensions, up, down, left, and right, and it is much harder to balance that glass of water. Then bend your elbow, and now you're on 3 dimensions, forward, back, up, down, left, and right. So for shooting on the move, bent elbows is a lot better because it's easier to stabilize that gun and keep it on target, especially when you're actually moving. Because go watch videos on the internet right now and look up shooting on the move. Show me how many guys you can find that are actually shooting on the move and moving really fast. Most people, everything they do when it comes to shooting is for static shooting. We're talking about fighting. We don't want to have to be static in order to hit the target. So that's the why on the bent elbows, okay? Usually people pay for that, but I just gave it to you. All right, now, bent elbows, when we are doing the Harry's technique, will make it so that you can have a stance where you don't have to be bladed, and it's going to make it a lot better for shooting on the move when you have a handheld light. Here's one of the other things to try out. I am finding right now that a slight cant to the gun, just slight, very slight cant to the gun, makes it easier to shoot with this grip as well, or sorry, with this technique. So slight cant to the gun, and what I'm doing is this hand is just kind of locked in position. I mean, it's not totally locked. I'm not like putting a lot of force into it, but it's just basically a stopping point. And this hand is pressing down with the wrist. Now, you can play with putting like knuckles to knuckles and the back of your hand to the back of your hand and stuff, but what I have found is the more rigid and tighter you have it, the harder it is to shoot on the move. It doesn't make hitting the target better, and I don't even find that it makes your follow-up shots better. So just a slight, like, pressing down into this wrist and just slightly pushing forward, I have found that that works best. And you know, those guys who have taken pistol cheat codes with me, all the stuff we do to develop and diagnose our shooting technique, apply it to these handheld light techniques as well. And that's kind of where this video is coming from. So all those different drills. Now, the pistol cheat codes training video for sale will be linked in the description when it's available. And also I'm gonna put a link to the pistol cheat codes class so you can see what I'm really talking about if you haven't taken it. Now, those are a couple things that's gonna make this technique better. Again, bent elbows, slight pressure forward, and just don't be locked out all the way. Just bring it in till you find that sweet spot. It's kind of like you can even exaggerate it in, but you'll find being this close in isn't going to be that good. Like, it's actually going to make it harder. Between all the way compressed in, where you can just barely keep those sights lined up, and all the way locked out, somewhere in here is that sweet spot that you want to be at. Now we're going to talk about the direction of movement and what works well with the Harry's technique. This will seem complicated to most people, so you can rewatch the segment of the video or come take pistol cheat codes, because people have taken that class will understand what I'm talking about right now a lot better because of the drills I have in that class, where they just get what I'm saying because they're doing it in real time and not just watching a video. What works well for Harry's technique? And I'm talking as a right-handed shooter. So if you're left-handed, flip it around, okay? If the target is center line of my body or to the left side of my body, again, as a right-handed shooter, I can move and shoot on the move with Harry's technique, and it is efficient, okay? So looking this way, say the target was straight in front of me, I could have the gun out here like I would naturally be with Harry's technique. And then as the target gets further and further to my left side, again, imagine I'm moving that way, then I can just compress the gun in, and it's still going to be good for shooting on the move. Again, we're just talking about shooting on the move with the Harry's technique right now. But if the target is to the right of my center line, then trying to rotate that way is going to rotate my hips, it's going to fuck up my movement, and I need to abandon Harry's technique. So think from center line left, yeah, Harry's technique can be fine. From center line right, then I should go back to a temple index. That is going to make it so that my movement is more natural, and it's not going to impede my shooting. Remember, there's a good and bad to everything that we do as far as techniques and tactics. So for right side of cover, it works pretty well. Clears the light nicely. I'm not going to expose too much of my body necessarily. For the left side of cover, I'm going to expose more. It's going to be a way more awkward stance and doesn't work as good. So how do we do it if we have to go left side of cover? Well, you could still have the flashlight in this position and just modify it so your fingers are more perpendicular to the light. Grab the gun. You take your right thumb, if you're a right-hand shooter, on top of the light, keep the light pointed towards the target, and then use your left thumb to activate the light. And think about it like this. You're going to give front and bottom pressure with these fingers, and you can even close your palm on the bottom of the gun and do as much as you can to try to make it as close to a two-hand grip as possible. Another popular technique for using a handheld light is the cigar technique, or you might hear it called the syringe technique. This is an awesome technique. It's just not my preferred one. I'll talk about why. But it does allow me to do all the same positions with the light in my hand. I just don't have good use of my trigger finger on the left hand or my middle finger on the left hand. The other thing I don't like about it is, being that I carry a weapon mounted light, if I go and draw my gun, I got this spacer that's going to get in the way of me using the light. Now you could say, well, you just go like that and then it's the same as what you're talking about. Yes, it is. But my issue with it is we are adding a step that is unnecessary. So to simplify it, that's where I prefer this, but you certainly could use that technique. And again, it's cool that, you know, if you got shock cord on there or some similar item, you still can dummy cord it to your hand. Now, one thing you will see people talk about too, as far as using a handheld light with a pistol, is using the cigar technique and then putting the button up against the knuckle to actuate the button. Now, notice I picked up a different light to show you this with. That's because this is the only light I've actually been able to make this work effectively with. And even, I say effectively, it's not that good when I use it. As in, I have a really hard time with it and I don't like it because of that. Maybe you're really good at it. Maybe your light's perfect for it. Okay, good for you. I don't like it. And also, I wouldn't want a technique that only works with one specific light. So, using this cigar technique, you make it very close to a normal grip, and then you just brace the light against your hand and you actuate the light like that. This can work, it can be effective. I just don't prefer it because I find it hard to guarantee that I'm gonna be able to actuate that button. I'd rather have a finger pressing the button than a knuckle. Now keep in mind, your weapon mounted lights on your rifle may stop working as well. Also, you might just pick up a rifle or be given a rifle or take a rifle that doesn't have a weapon mounted light. And then you have to make a handheld light work as well. So one thing, using that same Kyle Lamb technique, that is a very simple solution to work a handheld light with a rifle. The thing I'm gonna do differently than I would normally do is I'm just gonna take my wrist and put it kind of against the mag well, and then back of the hand up like this, and it's basically like a Harris technique, but with a rifle. Now, there's also the syringe technique would work for the same thing as well, and even if you got like a forward grip, maybe you could work the light around the side of that grip, and that could work very well for you. Try that out. You may find that you like that a lot. Again, people like the idea of using the button against the gun, so you could hold it like this, push the button with the gun, the mag well right there, and you can make that happen. But again, think about clearing malfunctions with a rifle are way more complicated than clearing malfunctions with a pistol. And also, the mags are bigger. You know, it's different than just grabbing a slide and racking it. You got like a charging handle you have to grab. It may get more complicated. So go through, try, you know, some ready ups, try some reloads and some malfunctions. Try it like that. Try it like that. Try it like this. And, you know, just experiment with it. See what actually does work effectively, especially if you've never done it before. Also, it should be a good reminder to go check the batteries and functions check all your weapon mounted lights, because it'd be really awesome if your weapon mounted light was working. You didn't have to use this. But anyways, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, come take a class. Combat Art Summit is coming up September 27th and 28th. Whole bunch of really great instructors are going to be there. Check out the Pistol Cheat Codes class. Buy my flashlight shock cord adapters and put them on all your lights. Get them as gifts for friends and stuff like that. Thank you for watching. Keep fighting communism. Kill all pedophiles. And remember that training saves lives.